I'm going to start the head gasket finally on this poor car. I'm in a situation where I need the car to be fixed really fast, so this isn't going to be a detailed explanation on how to do it, but I'm just going to give a overview of what's happening, why I'm doing what I'm doing, and all of that jazz. And to start with, I will take one thing off at a time. I like to lay them out in a row, and then when I get to the end of the row, I can just grab each piece as I pulled it off and put it back on the car. Put stuff on in the exact opposite order as the way it came off. I'm also not going to buy any parts for this yet, on the off chance that the engine's junk, head's warped, the block is warped, something of that nature. I'm going to check it all out before I buy anything for it, but I'm going to make a list of things that I need as I go. So with that, I'm going to start by removing the intake, exhaust manifold, valve cover, and intake manifold, and unplugging everything and laying it to its appropriate side. And then inspecting the timing chain, see where that goes, get the belt off, get this engine mount off if needed. I think the engine mount might go to the block, so it might be able to stay. Either way, that's the plan. So got a little ways down here. Pile started with the parts taken off in order here. So got the valve cover off, and I got all the front accessories removed, minus the alternator, because I don't think it's in the way it might be yet, but basically I got to get this front cover off so I can get the timing chains off, so I can get the cylinder head off. Over here I have the turbo / exhaust manifold removed. I unbolt the coolant passage from here and then undo the oil line that's here, and then I can remove the whole thing as one unit. My plastic drain tube broke in half. That's pretty common for that to happen. They get pretty brittle. Might break even again here. Anyway, yeah, kind of like that. I have an aluminum one coming to replace that garbage, so that can't happen twice. So I had to remove the turbo because I was originally just going to leave it here and sneak the head off, but I couldn't do that because this bracket here for the AC compressor bolts to the timing cover, but I can't unbolt this until I unbolt the AC compressor. But I couldn't bolt the AC compressor because the outlet of the turbo was in front of this bolt that's down here. So anyway, got it all off now. The intake has some hidden bolts down underneath. Everything is removed from the intake, so I think we're going to remove the intake with the cylinder head. That is the current plan of attack. I have made it a little bit further since the last time you guys saw this. I obviously now have the cylinder head off. It's there sitting on the ramp there. Cute. I haven't ordered anything for this yet, and the reason for that is because I wanted to make sure I could find what I like to call a snail trail of where the gasket has actually failed. This actually proves that we know what was wrong with it, rather than putting a head gasket on and then finding out that it was a cracked cylinder wall instead. So after very close inspection, what you're looking for, get that to focus please. See how there's a nice ring, that little shiny part right along the edge right there. See how it continues along, and then right there it kind of stops. That right there is your leak. The coolant was getting past that, because if it was sealed, it would never have a way to make that mark. And so cylinder 2 here and cylinder 3 have the same mark on them. So it should look like that, right at the end of my fingernail, and then right there is your leak. So I got 1, 2, 3, 4 spots for sure of a leak. Whereas right here, actually it seems to be the entire back of cylinder 1, which is very interesting. Back of cylinder 4, which explains why all of the cylinders are clean. Well, cleaner. So here's what I'm getting at. So see all this black mushy stuff? I can kind of scrape some of it off with my finger. That's actually unburned gasoline. It's called soot. It's carbon technically. It's about as hard as a brick. But basically, coolant steam cleans an engine. It's why you see people pouring little dribbles of water down a carbureted engine. It steam cleans this, loosens it up so it can go out the exhaust. And you can see where it's leaking. Notice how the piston is cleaner around where the cylinder was leaking. Notice how the top of that's super clean, right where it was leaking. Same on that one. And this one was starting to get cleaned. So that's what we're talking about when you say look for that clean cylinder, then you know where your leak's at. So this matches up with what I'm seeing as far as the piston being clean. So it hasn't been leaking for very long. Otherwise, the whole piston would be clean. So I'm going to go around and also check the cylinder walls for cracks. Don't worry about that. That's a hair, not a crack. So I've gone through and checked cylinder 2 and 3 already. So I'm going to spin this over here and check 1 and 4. Just kind of get these at top dead center. And then kind of go around the cylinder looking for anything obvious. Now you can't always see a hairline crack in an engine. Just because you can't see it doesn't mean it's not there. But because I found very, very strong evidence for the head gasket being blown, the engine block is probably fine. So now that I have a confirmed leak, I no longer am concerned about this old gasket. Something I find just kind of interesting is how engines have changed over the years. This is a 351M block out of a truck of some sort. And look at the size difference of the cylinders. It's incredible. You can put your fist down these cylinders. Look at the size difference. It's insane. Then I always like to look at the cylinder head too. I don't see the same snail trail evidence on the cylinder head that I did on a block. Maybe that spot right there. But see that clean ring around most of the cylinder? That's what it's supposed to look like. So it looks like maybe we had something going on there too, since there's dirt and soot there now. Either way, I'm gonna get this all cleaned up, and then we'll check it with a straight edge. While I clean this, I have the super scraper, and engines that use MLS gaskets like this one, that multi-layer steel, you want to be extra careful to not mar up or damage the sealing surface. Our MLS gaskets require a more precise surface than composite gaskets do, so you want to be really, really careful to not gouge anything. We will, of course, go over this with some towels and an air gun. Get all the stuff out of the cooling jackets and the cylinders. So I'll do this to the block and the cylinder head, and we'll get the straight edge. So I have the spec for the cylinder head. I'm assuming the block is the same. We're just going to go with it. And the reason for that is because that is a very, very small tolerance. Like 0.02 of an inch, more or less. And the kind of sucky part is that my tool goes from 10/15 of an inch to 0.03 of an inch. So I might have to check it with the 3 first and then check it with a 15/10. Either way, we'll kind of get it figured out. Okay, so we're not sitting on that or the frame rail here. I got it balanced. So you want to put the straight edge straight across the middle, the back, and the front, and also do crossways. You want to do this with the cylinder head too. The straight edges are milled straight within 0.10 of an inch, I believe. Anyway, I'm going to use my 15/10 of an inch feeler gauge because this is thinner than the spec, so if it passes this, we know we're good. We're going to try to get it underneath at every point that the straight edge makes contact with the block. And since I can't get this under any spot, that means in this direction, this cylinder block is good. So I'm going to do it on the back, front, crossways, and on the cylinder head. And if all of that checks out, then I'm going to purchase gaskets and continue putting this back together. I can just show you again here for fun. Okay, get this sideways. I'll check this again when I don't have a camera holding to make sure it's straight. But okay, so I'm making sure I'm not sitting on anything. So it's sitting there balanced. Do crossways. Can't get underneath. Okay, so there it's kind of going underneath. So there's a little bit of warpage going on there. That's not good. There you go. That's what I mean. So the cylinder head is warped in some manner like that. So it's possible it's sitting on some gunk or something over here too. Which is very, very possible because look, there is a chunk of something that I missed that the straight edge was sitting on. Get rid of that. Try this again. Hopefully that was it, just to show you how precise this needs to be. Good there. Yep, that little chunk of gasket was giving me a false reading. I scraped it off and now I can't get my feeler gauge underneath this anymore. I will continue to check the rest of it, but I'm pretty confident that this block is 100% fine. So I'm holding my straight edge up to the middle of this, and I have my 15 10,000ths of an inch feeler gauge, and it goes through the middle with ease. Remember, the spec was under 2 thousandths. So next I have my 3 thousandths of an inch feeler gauge out, and it goes right through without any trouble at all. So this cylinder head is warped. I'm going to double check it, there's no gaskets, and moved it around a little bit. So I know that there's some damage going on here to the cylinder head. So this will have to go to a machine shop to get planed. It doesn't have to get milled down, and just planed for a new sealing surface. But for the sake of knowing, I'm going to keep upping the feeler gauges until I have my spec for how much it's out. Okay, 4 thousandths of an inch, right through. 5 thousandths, right through. 6 thousandths, we got some resistance, but it went through. Oh, I didn't have it straight, sorry. 5 thousandths, yep. 6 thousandths, no. So this cylinder head is warped about 3 thousandths out of spec, because it was just below 2 and it's at 5 thousandths. So this cylinder head's gonna have to visit the machine shop. So just kind of some 2 cents going on here. These camshaft bolts do not have keyways in them, meaning that if you take them off, you need to buy GM's special tool to hold these camshafts back in their place again so you can get the timing correct. I don't want to do that because these have marks on them. I didn't even have to put these on here. The sprockets were marked, the chain was marked, so I'm going to transfer the chain marks from the old chain to the new chain and put everything back on where it was, so I don't have to mess with anything timing related. I can put it back exactly the way it was. It ran fine, and I don't have to buy GM a special tool. So I'm gonna have to tell the machine shop, if you can help it, don't touch the camshafts, because that will jack everything up. I don't want to spend more money than I have to. I don't know how machine shops mill their heads. I don't know if they have to take these apart to mill them anyway. So I got my cylinder head back from the machine shop. Turns out I had a stupid moment. My feeler gauge does have a 2 thousandths in it, so it was stuck to well, something, you know, oh boy, right? So I'm gonna recheck my engine block, but this thing was definitely out, and you could see it, so no harm done here anyway. There, I can no longer see a gap. Well, hard to show on this one at the same time, but I couldn't get my 2 thousandths through it. I also couldn't get my 15 10,000ths through it. I'm gonna recheck this one just for fun, my 2 thousandths here. And it does kind of go through a little bit, which is unfortunate. Tight there, tight there. I'm gonna put this across the other direction. Make sure it's not sitting up on a piece of gasket or something. That metal has got me very concerned. Yep, the straight edge was just sitting on a piece of gasket, so my 2 thousandths doesn't fit. So my cylinder block is fine. Okay, so I'm gonna scrape this up really, really nice and pretty. And I'm gonna put the head back on first, and then I'm going to remove this oil cooler for the oil cooler seals. So I'm going to talk about what's going on here for a minute. I took some tire chalk and wrote E and an I. So I have my intake camshaft, my exhaust camshaft, and I took these out of the cylinder head for when he machined it, so it wouldn't have all the cleaning agents and all the other crap that they use in the machining process on the cylinder head. The guy actually removed all the lifters just for that reason too. I forgot to remove them when I took it over, but no big deal. But the other reason I took them out was because that way I know 100% that all of these are in order. And then I just want to make absolutely sure that the machine shop wouldn't have removed this bolt on the end of this camshaft. So don't forget to put some engine oil in these oil passages here with the camshaft rides. If you don't do that, it will start up dry, and that can cause a bunch of damage before oil gets to it. I have the cylinder head on. It isn't quite bolted down yet, though the bolts are in there. They're just finger tight. And then I have the oil cooler removed. You can see somebody put RTV on here, which is, well, wrong. You shouldn't need it. Either way, somebody's been in here before. Get my light on here. Gonna make sure, get some Scotch-Brite a little bit, clean up the inside of this to make sure it seals nice. Make sure this is nice and smooth. And then the oil cooler itself, you'll replace these two gaskets. One of this piece sandwiches like that. There's a gasket in between there. This one is against the engine block surface. And then you'll have one for this coolant passage that goes in the end of it like that. And then you have another one. This one is your oil back to your engine block. And then of course your oil filter. Now the tricky part of this is there's two different versions of this, and these gaskets here, these two, they look the same, except one is bigger than the other one, which is weird, except like it's like these two, but they're just like smaller diameter and stuff. And so like one oil filter cap has nothing like this one does, just the torque spec, and then other ones have like 5 or 6 letters that say like HGST or something of that nature, and then it will be like the other gaskets. I don't know why they did this or what cars it's on, but just know that it exists. When I went to put the timing chain back on, I had everything marked precisely, and I had marked the chain, the original chain, and had everything all perfect, counted the links, all that stuff. I then transferred the marks from this original chain to this chain, the new one, and then it didn't line up, and I was really confused about how that was even possible. Either way, this is an interference engine, which means that the pistons and the valves occupy the same space, just not at the same time. So when the engine gets out of time, the pistons and the valves hit each other, and that's when engine damage occurs. So like I can't risk having this be out of time. So I ended up caving, and I bought the kit from Amazon to retime this engine properly. So it comes with this bar that sits flat across the cylinder head like this, and goes in this little offset slit in both camshafts to hold them in position. It also comes with this pin down here that goes in and locks the crankshaft at top dead center of the compression stroke. We can tell, because now I have it aligned properly, that we can peek down here. We can see that the piston's all the way up. If I zoom in a little bit, there you can see the piston there. And you can tell from this camshaft lobe, it spins clockwise. This is the intake, so it's away from the valve. And then the exhaust is also away from the valve. So that means that both valves are shut, which means this is building compression, so this is when the spark plug would fire, right at this point. And we will verify that too after I put the timing cover back on and get the balancer on it. I'll put the bolt back in it, and I will turn this over to make sure everything looks like it's happening at the correct times, just kind of as a confirmation and a peace of mind more than anything else. So these two bolts, this one and this one, each camshaft, are torque to yield, which means if you loosen them, you have to retime the entire engine, which means that you have to buy a new one if they're torque to yield, which means they're designed to stretch a little bit. I was really hoping to not buy some. They were $30 a piece, which was super cool. But with this kit that I bought, I managed to put this back in time. So I put like a little bit of slack in this, got the chain on the right tooth, and then put tension on it to the point where I was able to get this bar in real easily, so like it slides in and out, like so I can take it out and put it right back in place. That's how it's supposed to be. I'm gonna verify it's still in there. And there's tension up here on this chain, so my camshafts are 100% in time now, and my pin down here, the silver thing, can only go in one spot here, where this doesn't, the crankshaft doesn't turn either direction if you try. I put a wrench on these two flat spots right here, and you can't turn it either direction. So this is in time and this is in time, and this kit tells me that. How you're supposed to time it is you have the timing cover on it with a harmonic balancer. And this little hole right there would line up with this little timing marker right there. And that's how you know that you are at top dead center. And then you would put your pin in with all this stuff exposed and test it. And when you loosen these bolts, this cam sprocket, the actuator, and this reluctor wheel can rotate freely, both independent of each other, and the camshaft. So that way when you get this in time, because that bar is back there, you tighten these bolts down, and then everything is in time. But you need the timing cover to be on, because you put this special tool on that fits inside of these reluctor wheels to ensure that they are in the proper position. Now this looks like it's in the proper position, but there is a very specific note in the service manual that says to make sure that this piece right here in the bottom is actually bolted and flushed down to the timing cover to make sure these are correct. So I'm not going to finalize this yet. I'm going to put the timing cover on right now, put this bar back on here, bolt it down, make sure it's flush with this before I return these bolts that I've already ordered. So that's my next step. I'm going to put the timing cover on. This is torqued down, this is torqued, this guide, this tensioner is torqued. Actually, I can pull this pin out now. There we go. You can see it just came out. Put tension on my chain, and this thing is ready to get reassembled. I forgot to mention too, if you're retiming this for real and not just readjusting it or putting it back where it was, this special tool here will bolt down in place of the upper guide, and then you take this bolt, there's a slot on the other side of it, and you move it this way to the left here until there's no more clearance in the teeth, and that helps hold everything straight while you tighten it down. I'm a little bit further now. Got the timing cover back on, alternator on, belt tensioner on, harmonic balancer on and torqued. I did not replace the bolt in this, though you should. It's also torqued to yield. I'm being lazy at this point. It should be fine. But the big thing now is I have this bar right here that is currently bolted down. Well, before I unbolt it, notice how there is no space between the timing cover and the bar here. With the bar removed, we can kind of see how this fits in those reluctor wheels. So if I was retiming this properly and getting new bolts, I'd be taking off these front covers right here to go all the way through, to have this in place, the pin in place, and this flat bar in place for the camshafts in the back, and then tighten these bolts down to spec. Since I was able to get this back where it was before and the engine ran totally fine, I can just get away with checking it with this tool and moving on with my life. So now I'm going to pour engine oil back into the engine. And I like to do it now because I like to get it over all the chain guides and everything before I put it back together. This way I don't start it up dry. Kind of a mess, but try not to get it into cylinders like I already did. Optional step, personal preference. I'll go ahead and just dump the rest down the cover here. I am going to overfill this a little bit, 3/4 of a quart to be exact, because this is a 5-quart jug and the engine holds 4 1/4. And the reason for that is since the engine has been apart, most of the time the engine oil capacities are based on what comes out of the engine when you drain it. And there's oil always sitting somewhere in the cylinder head, somewhere in the engine block passages, and all of that good jazz. So I'm going to overfill it with the account of the head has been cleaned out, and there's no longer that extra residual stuff sitting around. So I'll fill it with extra, and then when you start it, it usually comes out about right. Another thing I'm going to do before I start this thing is disable the fuel system and then try to start it. Might just leave the fuel injectors unplugged and then crank it around a bunch. That gets the oil flowing through everything and bled before it's actually spinning at running speed. I'm also not going to put the plugs back in it because I just put a bunch of oil back down in there, so I'm going to make sure that I don't hydrolock the engine because I did a big dumb. But anyway, I'm going to put the valve cover back on now and keep bolting stuff on. I am finally at the moment of truth. Due to movie magic, it's all back together. I haven't put coolant in it yet. I'm gonna make sure it starts before I put a bunch of coolant in it. Start it for a couple seconds and then shut it off. So hopefully this is a recording of my success and not my failure. You know what would help? If I plugged in the fuel injectors. Let's try that again. Well, she smokes a lot. A lot of oil burning off of it. Well, it ran, so I'm gonna put coolant in it and go for a test drive. Still runs good. Didn't misfire a bit when I fired it up either. Belt's on straight. Looks like I got the oil burning off still off everywhere. I got an exhaust leak. My clamp broke in half back there. I can definitely hear the exhaust leak. And it's right on a coolant hose. I'm gonna have to fix that pretty quick, unfortunately. Might be able to rotate the clamp around or something maybe. It's been a few weeks and the car's been driven, somewhere between 400 and 500 miles. So I don't have any leaks. It runs nice and strong. And by strong, I mean like it's running good and healthy. It's not fast or strong. But no oil leaks around here, nothing dripping on the ground. Peek around to the front. No oil drips down there. And of course, I've crawled underneath it too and looked for leaks, and it looks the same as it does up here. So with that, I think my head gasket project is finally complete.